Measuring medical care cost and patient financial data. This is Module 5.1.1. Steve Parenti here, Carlson School of Management, University of Minnesota. We're now beginning our fifth module and getting into measuring the cost of care. This is obviously for healthcare like a major issue. The advantage of the database that we're using, the claims databases, both for CMS as well as the SIN-USA database, is that that's really something they're exceptionally good at. There are some tricks to this, and it's important to know what different fields go into different places. So let's start off by just getting right into this by looking at the goal. This is, again, building on what we've done for Module 3, Module 4. Now we're just really looking at a different objective. So to that extent, let's go to our spreadsheet table shells that we've been at before and get to right here, week 5. So let's expand this just so we can see a little better. So what we have here going on is the same thing as before, our USA SIN population, the ESI population, the Medicare fee-for-service, the Medicaid population, the MA population, and the under 65 non-group population. And really you'll be doing essentially the same thing as before. Same states that you looked at before for your seed. So for the example that I'll show you, it'll be Pennsylvania, New York, and Maryland. The categories that we're now going to be generating from claims data will be really focused on two different things. One is the total amount allowed, which is the deductible plus other components. I'll just break that down actually as an illustration on the spreadsheet in a second. And so the total patient burden, which is how much the person puts out in terms of copays and other deductibles. So if you think about what this would really be equal to as a field, it would be essentially, I'm going to write it up here, allowed is equal to deductible, and probably the biggest one, provider payment, plus any copay plus coinsurance. Now the good news is that this is already run for you, and I'll show you in a program exactly how this lies out in a second when we get into it on the server. If you think about what the patient, this piece here would be, the total patient burden, it's basically everything minus that provider payment. So patient burden is equal to, patient burden is equal to coinsurance plus copayment plus deductibles. And again, I'll write it out for you all here. Allowed is simply basically the patient burden plus the provider payment. So if you think about when you go to the doctor and get something done, you'll pay some sort of copay or maybe a deductible, but you'll also, and the insurance company will likely, unless you're uninsured, pay for much of this as well. And so once that happens, then that becomes the big part that is a negotiated fee back to the physician. So we're going to be using, again, the SAS online tools to get there. You can program this all with SAS using just using a regular program on a desktop. You can do this in R as well. But for the analysis right now, we're going to be principally driven by doing this SAS online. It's probably the most straightforward way to get it done. This concludes this module on the overview of patient burden. Next up, we're going to talk about some of the peer-reviewed literature that would go into supporting this application.